Hi, my name is Annie James, and welcome to Payson, Arizona, nestled in the central highlands of Arizona. And I am a member, along with Jen Holly, of the Celtic-American duo Cinnamon Twist. And today we are going to be presenting some history and songs and a little bit of poetry from the great Scottish bard, Robert Burns. And we're doing this on behalf of the Northern Arizona Celtic Heritage Society. And we would also like to thank our grantors at this time, the Arizona Commission on the Arts, the Flagstaff City Council, the Flagstaff Arts Council in Coconino County, and also the Flagstaff Community Foundation. So thank you, all of you, for helping us to do this video presentation today. With that, I would like to go ahead and show you a little presentation that we have in the Payson Public Library, who is giving us this time to do this presentation. And if we notice on top, there is the famous Alexander Nesmith painting of Robert Burns. That's a copy, obviously. And we have a vintage guitar, which would have been the type that Robert Burns played, and is similar one is on a display in Alloway at the Burns Museum. We have some household items, teacups, beer mugs, and the like that were popular at the time of Robert Burns. We also have a violin. Burns played both violin and guitar when he wrote his songs. The oldest book we have here is from 1716. It's the first 300 years of Christendom by Lord Peter King. And we also have a 1790 version, which I'm going to pick up here very, very, very carefully, of the works of Robert Burns. This is a book that was actually published in 1790 in Belfast, Ireland, which is during the lifetime of Robert Burns. And this is a reprint of the famous Thelmernock edition of his poems, chiefly in the Scottish dialect. With that, I'm going to hand this presentation over to my music partner, Jen Holly, who will start our music portion. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Jen Holly, and Ann and I are going to do some music for you now. The first song we're going to do is called Rant and Robin, and it is a tongue-in-cheek autobiography that Burns wrote in about 1787. And he talks about his birth, mostly, and there was a storm that happened 9 days after he was born. A gypsy came to the house to seek shelter, and she apparently held him throughout most of the storm and did a little palm reading on him. And when they talk about the gossip keekit in his loof, she's looking in his palm and deciding that he's not going to be stupid, is what she said. He's going to be pretty bright, and we're all going to be proud of him. So we don't know for sure if that's really what the gypsy said, but it's what Burns said she said. There was a lad was born in Kyle, but what no day or what no style. I doubt it's hardly worth the while to be so nice with Robin. Robin was a roving boy, a rantin' rovin', rantin' rovin'. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin' Robin. Our monarch's hindmost year but ane was 5 and 20 days begun. 'Twas then a blast of Januar wind blew Hansel in on Robin. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin', rantin' rovin'. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin' Robin. The gossip keekit in his loof, quote she, what live shall see the proof. This wally boy will be nae coof, I think we'll call him Robin. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin', rantin' rovin'. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin' Robin. He'll have misfortunes great and small, but I a heart aboon them all. He'll be a credit to us all, we'll all be proud of Robin. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin', rantin' rovin'. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin' Robin. But sure as 3 times 3 make 9, I see by ilk a score and line. This chap will dearly like our kin, so please me on me, Robin. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin', rantin' rovin'. Robin was a roving boy, rantin' rovin' Robin. So So Robert Burns, we know he loved the ladies, and he started pretty young. One of the first poems that he wrote about a girl was called Handsome Nell, and Annie's going to read a little bit about that, a little bit from it. And it's basically a gal named Nellie Kirkpatrick, who he did some farm work with, and he thought she had a beautiful voice.
That's right. And he was only 15 years old.
15
This
years
was
old.
written in 1771. And I'm going to read the first verse and the last verse. It's kind of telltale. But you just don't hear the 15-year-old. I think Robert Burns was born mature in a way when it came to love. Once I loved a bonny lass, aye, I love her still. And whilst that virtue warms my breast, I love my handsome Nell. 'Tis this in Nell that pleases me, 'tis this enchants my soul, for absolutely in my breast she reigns without control. Kind of a neat way to start your career.
Our next song is one that you probably know. It's called Ye Banks and Braes o' Bonnie Dune, and it was written in 1791.
Okay.
O ye banks and braes o' bonny Dune, how can ye bloom sae fresh and fair? How can ye chant, ye little birds, and I say weary and full of care? Thou break my heart, thou warbling birds that wanton through the flowering thorn. Thou mind me of departed shores, departed never to return. Oft have I roved by bonny Dune to see the rose and woodbine twine, and ilka bird sang of its love, and fondly say did I of mine. With lightsome heart I pulled a rose full sweet upon its thorny tree, but my false lover, he stole my rose, and oh, he left the thorn with me. One interesting thing about Robert Burns is that he did a lot of songs from a woman's perspective, which I don't think happened a whole lot back then. This might have been part of his charm. He had, I think, what a lot of people might say is a high emotional intelligence. So this song is called To the Weavers Gin Ye Go. It was written in 1788. And it's about a young girl who was sent to town to weave a plaid for her family. And right next to her at the weaver's shop is the weaver's apprentice, and he's a pretty good-looking guy. He's pretty cute. And so every time the shuttle goes back and forth, she's just dying because he is drop-dead gorgeous. And this is the worry about what might happen if you let the weaver's son walk you home at night. You'll hear the loom in Annie's guitar here. My heart was once as blithe and free, and summer days were long. But a bonny Westland weaver lad has gart me change my song. To the weavers gin ye go, fair maids, to the weavers gin ye go.
I tell you right, gang there at night, to the weavers gin ye go.
My mother sent me to the town to warp a plaid and web, but the weary, weary warping o't has gart me sigh and seb.
To the weavers gin ye go, fair maids, to the weavers gin ye go. Well, I tell you right, gang there at night, to the weavers gin ye go.
Well, I sat beside beside my warping wheel, and I called it round. But every shock and every knot my heart gave a stone.
To the weaver's gin you go, fair maids, to the weaver's gin you go. Well, I tell you, right gang there at night, to the weaver's gin you go.
Well, the bonny Westland weaver lad sat working at his loom. He took my heart as with the net through every knot and strung.
To the weaver's gin you go, fair maids, to the weaver's gin you go. Well, I tell you, right gang there at night, to the weaver's gin you go.
Well, the moon was sinking in the west with visage pale and wan, as my bonny Westland weaver lad conveyed me through the glen.
To the weaver's gin you go, fair maids, to the weaver's gin you go. Well, I tell you, right gang there at night, to the weaver's gin you go.
Well, what was said and what was done I dinna dare to tell, and oh, I fear the countrymen will ken as weel's myself.
To the weaver's gin you go, fair maids, to the weaver's gin you go. Well, I tell you, right gang there at night, to the weaver's gin you go. To the weaver's gin you go, fair maids, to the weaver's gin you go. Well, I tell you, right gang there at night, to the weaver's gin you go.
This next song was written in 1792, and it was a dance tune, and it actually was a set of 3 songs that were done, and Annie's going to talk a little more about it.
Yeah, this is the last of the trilogy. It's called Weary Fae Duncan Gray. It's written in the old Scots language, and it's a story of a courting that happened with Duncan Gray when he was having a fun time and taking advantage of this woman. And then after that, then things became a little bit more serious, and they had what we call the Gerdnote, or the pledge to each other. Well, she had the child. The beast came down, and this is the story of what happens after she becomes pregnant and she's going through the situation. Oh, if only Duncan would be faithful to me, that would be so much better. So this is the best known of the trilogy. So Weary Fae Duncan Gray. Weary Fae Duncan Gray, ha ha the Gerdnote. Wiggy by a Duncan Gray, ha ha the Gerdnote. When the love gets to their play, then I'm on sit the lee long day, and shake the cradle with me tay, ah for the Gerdnote. Bonny was the Lammas moon, ha ha the Gerdnote, glorin' in the hills aboon, ha ha the Gerdnote. The garden brack and the beasts come down, tent me kirk and a babe me shoon, and Duncan you're an uncouth loon, ha for the Gerdnote. But Duncan, can you keep your wraith? Ha, ha, the Gerdnote. I bless you with me hindmost breath. Ha, ha, the Gerdnote. Duncan, can you keep your faith? The mistren can bless us baith, and oldness John will mend the skaith. Ah, the bad Gerdnote, the clout of the bad Gerdnote, the clout of the bad Gerdnote. Ah, for the Gerdnote. Short little ditty. I love these little songs and tunes by Robert Burns.
This
So
next
nice.
one is also somewhat famous. It's called A Fond Kiss, and it was written as a goodbye to a woman who Burns had more of a spiritual relationship with, I would say. They corresponded a lot, and they talked about music and literature and all of these things. Her name was Agnes MacLehose, and she was married to someone else. And he called her Nancy. And this was written in 1791 when she was leaving to go to Jamaica to reunite with her husband. And it's called A Fond Kiss. A fond kiss, and then we sever. Hey, farewell, and then forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears, I'll pledge thee. Pouring sighs and groans, I'll wage thee. Who shall say that fortune grieves him, while the star of hope she leaves him? Mean a cheerful twinkle lights me, dark despair around me nights me. I'll never blame my partial fancy. Nothing could resist my Nancy, but to see her was to love her, love but her, and love forever. A fond kiss and then we sever. Hey, farewell, alas, forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears, I'll pledge thee. Warring sighs and groans, I'll wage thee. I'll wage thee. I'll wage thee.
Thelmernock, you think? Okay, Robert Burns had many interesting poems and things he read, but he read them to his friends, and especially in a place called Tarbolton in Scotland, where he was a member of a gentleman's club. I think they called it the Tarbolton Bachelors Club. They would dance and read poems to each other, and they would be the men in there, but I think they snuck women in there too. They must have, because they were all about women. So that was pretty interesting. Anyway, after that, and after his affair that he had with Jean Armour, who her father broke off, he fell in love with a woman named Mary Campbell, who was Highland Mary, and they decided to sneak away together, maybe even elope together to Jamaica, or at least the West Indies, where he was going to be a plantation overseer, not really Robert Burns, but because he was an egalitarian and he believed in human rights. And he was also going to take Mary, and they were going to raise a family as an accountant also over there. So anyway, Mary died in childbirth, or no, she died of typhus. She died of typhus, not in childbirth. She died of typhus, and the baby died also. So he had to raise some money, put it together, and take the ship over to Jamaica. And how was he going to do this? So he went over to Kilmarnock, and he met with a publisher named John Wilson, and he decided to publish a book of his poems. Why not? And raise enough money to barely buy fare and so forth to get over there. What happened was he sold subscriptions to the book, was able to publish the book, and it sold beautifully. They sold out. But he also sold it to some people from Edinburgh, and a critic in Edinburgh got a hold of the Kilmarnock edition of his poems. And one of the poems in particular it was like he became a rock star overnight. You know, it was like he had done Satisfaction by the Rolling Stones or something like that. And this thing was called To a Mouse on Turning Her Up in Her Nest with a Plow in November of 1785. Anyway, he got rave reviews, and then when they picked up the book and read Halloween and To a Louse and all these things, they went, you know, this plowman poet really has something going. So what I'd like to do is read just a couple of verses, some of the most famous verses from To a Mouse, real quick, just to give you a flavor of the poem. And you'll notice that American author John Steinbeck and other people have picked up bits and pieces of this poem. People love to quote Burns. We sleek at cowering timorous beastie, how it panics in thy breastie. Thou needna start to waste so hasty with bicker and prattle. I would lay wait to rin and chase thee with murder and prattle. Now, But Mousie, thou'rt know thy lane, in providing foresight may be vain, the best laid schemes of mice and men gang after glee, and laird not but grief and pain for promised joy. So those are two of the most famous lines from To a Mouse. I love that, and I love doing that whenever I get a chance. So you guys can get in touch with me, and I'll do the whole poem in Old Scots and in English. I love it so much. He had a great sense of humor.
Oh.
And the next one is really, really funny. This was when Robert Burns was with Jean in church, and I'll let Jen tell the story, what he saw in her hair.
Yeah, 1786, it was quite the banner year for him because he was trying to marry Jean Armour, and it didn't work out, and her father fainted at the idea that this poor guy was going to try to marry his daughter. But anyway, he wrote a poem called To a Louse on seeing one on a lady's bonnet at church. And in the poem, he says it's Jeannie, but it probably was somebody else. And this kind of gives you an idea, even though this is in Old Scots, you can get the idea, even though you might not understand every single word, just from the language of it. So,
you've got something in your hair. Okay. Must be a louse.
Ha! Where you going, you crowlin' furly? Your impudence protects you sairly. I canna say but you strunt rarely o'er gauze and lace. Though faith, I fear you dine but sparely on sic a place. You ugly, creepin', blasted Werner, detested, shunned by saint and sinner. How dare you set your fit upon her, so fine a lady? Gaze somewhere else and seek your dinner upon some other poor body. That gives you an idea. A lot of what was in this book was some comedy too, and people just loved it. They really enjoyed it, and they loved having him come to their homes in Edinburgh, and a lot of the ladies' salons and things like that. They loved
it.
Yeah.
So after the Thelmernock edition, there were many more editions, and Robert Burns was just coming into his life. But Robert Burns had something similar to American musicians such as Hank Williams and Jim Morrison or other people like that, because he died young at only 37. So he only had, after the Thelmernock edition, he only had 11 years. And a couple of big things that came out of that, he would rewrite old ballads and old songs and things like that, like My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose or Auld Lang Syne. And one of the most famous is John Barleycorn. He took the centuries-old story of growing barley for whiskey and made it very, very, very famous. So people think he wrote it. But anyway, this is part of his rewrite. This is the last verse and last stanza here. John Barleycorn was a hero bold, of noble enterprise, and if you but do taste his blood, 'twill make your spirit rise. 'Twill make a man forget his woe, 'twill heighten all his joy, 'twill make the widow's heart to sing, though the tear be in her eye. And then let us toast John Barleycorn, each man a glass in his hand, and may his great posterity ne'er fail in old Scotland. So it just shows you some of the power of the words.
Burns collected probably close to 200 songs and poems, and it was included in a book of Scottish musical history, actually a set of 3 volumes. And this is one of them. This was collected and edited in 1794, and it's called My Love is Like a Red, Red Rose. My love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. My love is like a melody so sweetly played in tune. Say fair art thou, my bonny lad, so sweet in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, though all the seas gang dry.
Little snippet from that song. Well, we have one more we would like to do, and that is Robert Burns' most famous song, Auld Lang Syne, which he, Jen will tell you a little bit more about the story, but he actually picked up from an old gentleman. It was an old ballad that he wanted to bring forth. And you know, that song has been played more than any other song in Western culture with the exception of Happy Birthday, according to, I think it's Guinness
right.
Book of World Records or somebody like that. Anyway, so this is Auld Lang Syne, and
if you're sitting at home and you'd like to sing along with us, we'd love to have you sing with us because you probably know it. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and old lang syne? For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for old lang syne.
thank you. We're Cinnamon Twist, coming to you from Payson, Arizona, and thank you to the Northern Arizona Celtic Heritage Society for including us.